What are we talking about here, guys? So.
Yeah, like an awesome seat right under the big VIDXB.
I know, this is characterized to me as a fireside chat, so I was expecting a small fire.
Well, I was just told like 5 minutes ago, somebody walked up and said, I hope this whole structure stays in place because it's packed in case he's...
that is not encouraging.
I mean, it will be great for our vlogs. It will be
great content.
Oh my god.
Good clickbait.
Listen, I just want to quickly start out by saying today's Friday, and in the UAE, on Fridays it's always family day. And if you miss lunch, your mom like chops your head off. I told her that I have something to do today, and when I told her it was Casey...
It's lunchtime right now.
Yeah, I know.
Is everyone here going to lose their...
yeah, basically, yeah.
Thanks for coming, guys.
When I told my mom it was you, though, because we watch you every morning for breakfast, she's like, invite him over, you know, he's welcome. So I got an invitation to the house.
What's for lunch?
My schmoes.
Oh, I'm there. I'm in.
I want to say, very quickly, when you're in a certain industry, like when I worked for the government for some time, and the epitome of working for the government was meeting His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, and I did that. I also was in the food industry, and the epitome was meeting Anthony Bourdain. I did that, and I just turned into a YouTuber, and the epitome is meeting the godfather of YouTube, Casey Neistat.
Very kind of you to say. You know, YouTube is like a cauldron. So I always think that there's always such new, fresh talent, and there's so many people there, and so many creators. I mean, look at how many cameras are here. There's always so many new creators that I think there's always kind of a revolving door of new styles and tones and aesthetics that are always arriving on the platform. So to be a part of that cycle, it's very exciting as a filmmaker. It's probably like the most gratifying thing I've done in the tenure of my career. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I love being a YouTuber.
That's amazing. Look, I just want to very quickly, now obviously everybody's here because of you, and I'm assuming everybody knows everything about you, just like me.
Did you guys watch Rewind, the new? What did you think? Okay, here's the thing. I wrote a movie, and I didn't make it, and I'm thinking about, this is true, I don't know if it's like too angry and cynical to make, but it's called YouTube Rewind Sucked. No, because I thought it was terrible, and here's my thing. I'm never one to discourage anyone's creativity. Like, if I don't get your work, I would never discourage it. But I just think that, like, YouTube is this unbelievable outlet for creators all over the world to share our voices, and when you think about, like, 2017 was one of the craziest years geopolitically, socially, like for a million reasons, one of the craziest years ever. And I think through all of this chaos, we all look to YouTube to try to understand what the heck's going on in the world. And how does YouTube acknowledge that in a video that they produce with all of their biggest creators by having like 5 minutes of green screen dancing to Despacito? I mean, I was so disappointed. It was just absolute nonsense. And it could have been something so meaningful. It didn't have to be serious, it could have been fun, but there was nothing. It was the equivalent of like, instead of having a meal, having a bag of potato chips. It just left me feeling empty and full of shame. So I didn't make the video, but I'm glad I can share my thoughts.
I think that's actually a perfect segue to something that I want to ask you. You know, I recently saw your video with the guy from Eastern Europe, Peter. And, you know, I know you talked about copycats a lot for some time, and it was a big discussion, and then you integrate that into your content. Tell us about how the whole process works. How do you take things and then just say, I'm going to use this in this form? Like, what's the planning process and things like that?
Copycats frustrate me, not because I care. Because I think if somebody copies you, it doesn't hurt you. Like, it doesn't take you down at all. But it frustrates me because I think that YouTube as a platform, as long as you're copying or emulating someone else, you'll never succeed, you'll never find your own voice. Because why would somebody want a photocopy when they can have the original? You always need to build on that. So I'll always preach that from the mountaintops, because I think like you want to succeed in this platform, find your voice, ignore what other people are doing. But Peter is not someone that I would classify at all as a copycat. I think that what he made was a video that was just kind of making fun of me, And it was like an homage to all of like the most extreme aspects of what I do, but done in a really funny, clever way. And he's this young guy from the Czech Republic who doesn't have a lot of resources, but he made this crazy over-the-top video. Yeah, and I thought it was really flattering and funny, and he came all the way to New York, so I know, whether the video is about me or not, I always believe in supporting creators that are out there trying to do their thing, and he is definitely that.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a lot of... See, I told you to get one of these. You know, I mean, this region is quite new. We did some events a couple of years ago, and we struggled to find YouTubers in the region. But recently, it's blown up. You know, there's a lot more creators coming out of this region. But there's still, like, a lot of questions about what's important from the get-go. What is the most important thing that you need to focus on, and what you need to do to kind of get to a level where you are a consistent content creator? Is it every day? Is it once a week? Is it good equipment? Is it a good story? What kind of advice do you have for newbies?
I think it's only ever one thing, and that's the quality of your content. I think that the things that people point to that are like having good cameras and good equipment and proper edits and consistency, I think all of that stuff sits way in the back seat compared to what's out front, which is making content that really, really matters. And there's a number of YouTubers that are just huge YouTubers that do 20, 30 million views per video, and they post once a month. And they're huge. And then there are other videos that are there are other creators that are really meaningful and have huge audiences. I'm thinking of like the Fun for Louis of the world and the Ben Browns of the world. And they do 70, 80,000 on views per video, which is a lot, but it's not, it's not PewDiePie level views. So I think you can build an audience regardless of what your style is or what the magnitude is, but I think at the core, you have to tell a story really well. And I think when you look at a platform with 1.3 billion users, the only story that you should really be focusing on is your story. And when I think of kind of the growth that you've seen in the Middle East on YouTube, it's because there are a lot of unique stories here that the world doesn't really know about. So I think that presents like a tremendous opportunity for this part of the world because people are curious, people want to know. And it's very hard to understand that through the lens of like traditional media and mainstream media and television and stuff like that. But when it's an individual sharing your individual story, I think you will find an audience. So my advice always is just focus on telling a story really well. In order to tell a story well, you have to know the story well. And one story that everybody knows better than anyone else is your own story.
And in terms of algorithms, is there anything that we should know that you already know that you can kind of advise us on?
I think that's all nonsense. I mean, I think all that growth hack stuff on YouTube, like, you can put a lot of effort into that and it's going to move the needle just a little bit.
Okay.
But if you make content that really matters, it's going to move the needle so much. And what I mean by that is like, I don't think I used a single tag in like any of the 800 episodes of my blog that I ever uploaded. I just tagging was such a pain, and it requires too much thought, so I just never used it. And they never had any trouble finding an audience. So there are ways you can manipulate the platform that'll give you little nudges, but if that's your focus, then you should rethink what you're doing altogether.
I watched the video of you, and I can't remember where it was, but you talked about your friend Ben Brown, and he said something like, if you stop, you know what's going to happen, but if you continue, you don't know what's going to happen. And I refer to you creating content on a daily basis and how long that takes. And is it important for you to do that, to continue to do it every single day? And can you do it every single day? How long for?
Do you have to do it every day? No, I don't think so. But I think continuing to do it really matters. And I think Ben is such a brilliant YouTuber and somebody that I've learned so much from because he did daily for so long and now he's shifting to really super like top-notch productions on his channel. But I think you have to keep doing it. Because if you stop, one thing happens. You fade away, somebody else will come in and take your place because all of us as viewers, we only have so much brain space, so if somebody fades away and somebody new comes in, you get displaced, that's what happens. But if you keep going, you're forced to find new creative outlets, you're forced to find different voices, you're forced to find new creativity, and to me that's the most exciting thing. I made a video a little while ago. It was not a good video. I was like going to the Midwest in the United States of America, like a really boring part of the country for work. But I was on an airplane and I was really bored. And I was like, I want to shoot something, but like I literally can't film any more of me sitting in an airplane seat and expect my audience to actually care. And I remade like a 1-minute scene out of one of my favorite movies called Fight Club. And like I love that movie. I'm such a big fan of Fincher, and like Ed Norton is so good in that. And I just recreated that, and that was such a fun thing. And like when I finished it, I was like, yeah. And then the rest of the video sucks, and I was like, who cares? So I was so psyched about that 1 minute. And I would have never forced myself to do something like that if I wasn't constantly creating. Like if that day I'd been like, man, I don't have anything to say today, I wouldn't have done it. Because I was like, no, I'm going to make something. I forced myself to do something that's sort of a little bit out of the wheelhouse of my comfort zone. And that's the most exciting part of YouTube, is that, you know, I've made feature film. I spent 2 years of my life dedicated to making one movie. And there's not a lot of malleability there. There's not a lot of room for error. But when you're making something every day, or twice a week, or once a week, or there's a lot of room to mess up and find your voice and play around with it. I think of it as like, I don't know if you guys watch a lot of American television here in the Middle East, but if you think of like 30 Rock or Curb Your Enthusiasm or any of like the great TV shows, the actors that are in that TV show, I think those shows like really define those actors. Like Alec Baldwin, who's like a fantastic film actor, but really it's his role in 30 Rock that matters, because it's a new show every week and he can try new things and he can try different roles and he can be funny or he can be serious. And movies don't give you that latitude when you're making one movie, but on YouTube you can create something new every time you upload. And that was the part of daily that I fell in love with, and that's what I still love now that I upload 3 times a week. I haven't posted in a while. I had to go to Dubai, but as soon as I get a minute, I've got some real winners in the hopper for you guys.
I guess that's the great thing about YouTube. I guess for me, when I look at YouTube, I look at the people that persist. They're putting in a lot of work, and when you're successful on YouTube, you're putting in that work. You know, it's not you can't do this quickly.
I don't think you can be lazy because the audience cares. And if the audience cares and you don't care, the audience will realize that. See, any YouTuber, any thoughtful YouTuber, all thoughtful YouTubers, know and respect their audience, just how smart their audience is and how engaged their audience is. And if there's one thing that's strong in an audience, it's their ability to sort of detect nonsense when you stop caring. It's like a funny thing, like comments, the worst thing on the planet Earth. Like, the haters, the nonsense in the comments, none of it bothers you except for one thing, and that's when the comments tell the truth. Like, make fun of me for days, like, pick on me, say stupid things, none of it bothers, like, just who cares. But when they say something that's truthful, it hurts so badly. And for me, like, that's when I stopped my daily vlog, like, when I first stopped it, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore, I want to rethink what I'm doing on YouTube. It was because for a couple of months, like 3 months, I sort of lost my way. I hadn't stopped to catch my breath and really thought about why I was doing this. It was just going through the motions. Like the easiest way, the laziest way possible is what I was doing, and I was never able to catch up. And a lot of the comments were like, they hit home because they were telling the truth. They were like, this used to be interesting, and now it's just what you're up to every day. And I was like, no. That's exactly. And it was the truth. It was totally the truth. And for me, like that's what taking a step back did. Is it was like, okay, like, why do I do this? What is it that I love about this? Make sure I always have something to say. If I don't find something to say, and if I don't do it. And that's where I am now. And I really, really, really want to go back to posting like 7 days a week. There's just something about that. There's something about operating when there's like a dog's chasing after you, and if you slow down, that dog's going to catch you, and that's what daily feels like. And I have a video that I shot like 5 days ago, and I just haven't finished it, and I'm just like, oh, no big deal, finish it tomorrow. But if it was daily, it was like, no, you stop at nothing to finish that.
And you're still doing everything yourself, Casey. I mean, is that something that you see continue to happen? I know you've talked about that before. You said, nobody else can be me, and show my perspective, so it's got to be me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, Jake and Logan Paul, who are very divisive YouTubers, but they're friends of mine. I think the thing that they brought to the platform that was really interesting is they don't do their own productions. They travel with friends who are super, super talented filmmakers who are filming them, and they do edit them. They do all the production work for them, and it makes them just personalities. And I don't say that to discredit them. I say that I think that's a very smart progression on the platform. But for me, I think me being a personality comes secondary to what I really love about YouTube, which is actually creating. So I just use myself as the subject matter because I don't have anything else to talk about but me. But my love is actually making stuff. So I like, you know, remaking a scene from Fight Club. It wasn't about me in real life. I was pretending to be Edward Norton. But it was the act of making it that I love doing. So I do it all myself because that's what excites me the most about creating. But I do think that now we're seeing the tide shift on the platform a little bit. We're seeing some creators bring in collaborators to remove some of the burden of creation, to up their output and focus on themselves as talent instead of themselves as creators.
Speaking of collaborations, I know that you do that a lot. By the way, Jesse, I mean, you and Jesse, those are the two that I watch every single day. Yeah, he's awesome. Jesse Wellens, guys, if you guys don't watch him. Prank versus Prank, originally. If you guys, I was actually in Venice Beach a couple of days ago, like walking around, saying, Jesse,
usually he's on his electric skateboard with no shirt on, just zipping up and down the beach.
I couldn't find him, but I wanted to talk about that a little bit more, because when I look at the music industry, I think, you know, when you look at how people collaborate in the music industry, it works. There's a formula, and it's good. Is it the same on YouTube? Is that why you do it?
No.
In terms of a value for both collaborators,
I think there's an argument for that, and I think that collaborations as transactions are something that you see a lot of on the platform. I don't like that. Meaning that, like, you come on my channel, I'll go on yours, and we both promote each other. I think that's pretty uninteresting. I think the more interesting opportunity is the fact that you're able to create something with another person that you couldn't create on your own. And that's why I put a lot of effort into collaborating with not just big YouTubers, but creators that I find really interesting. My friend Molly, who lives in Toronto, she is completely blind. She's visually impaired. She can see nothing. And she's a fantastic YouTuber. And when I first watched her stuff, I was like, this makes no sense. I was like, her footage, her videography is better than mine, and she has a really good excuse for it to not be better than mine. And I was fascinated by her, and when the opportunity came up to work together, I jumped at it. And it wasn't because I thought there'd be an opportunity for me to get new subscribers, it's because I saw an interesting opportunity. So for me, collaborations are about creativity and about, I mean, really my favorite thing is shining a spotlight on creators that maybe my audience isn't aware of. And I think that's a really optimistic part of it. But I think transactional collaborations are kind of uninteresting.
I want to talk a little bit about distribution. You know, distribution of content has always been, and I think continues to be a little bit of an issue in this region. We're a region that basically imports everything. And I think YouTube might be the thing that's going to break that. You know, we're starting to see a lot of creators. We might be able to export some content, you know, finally. What has distribution meant for you? Because I know you went from HBO, those days, to YouTube content creation, and you're in control of your creative content, but also where it goes, how it goes, who it gets to. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the most frustrating thing for me when I worked in TV and when I worked in films was that you have your creativity, which is like you and your idea, and then you have your audience. And in between those two facets are like producers and channel heads and studio heads and all these filters between the creative and the audience. And I hated that. I hated all the politics associated with that. And I think for me, the most exciting thing about YouTube, the thing I romanticize the most about YouTube, is just purely like your creative idea and then your audience. When you click upload, it gets shared to the world. You are the arbiter of what you want to share, and I think there's something really special about that. If you think of like a painter decides when this painting is done, and then she hangs that painting on the wall, and the world gets to see it exactly as she meant it to be seen. It doesn't get put through filters, and other people get to say, man, a little bit more red, no, a little bit more like this. It's just purely her inception of her expression of creativity. And that idea is what I love most about YouTube, and that's why I say that, you know, like, everybody in here in their hands right now or in their pockets has a phone that has an internet connection and a good enough camera to capture something. And with the YouTube app, you literally have the camera, you have the production device, and then you have the ability to distribute it to a global audience. And like to try to conceptualize an idea like that 10 years ago is unfathomable. But today it's ubiquitous. It's something we all have access to. And I think it truly like egalitarianizes. It makes fair one of the most elitist art forms that's ever been, which is filmmaking.
Amazing. And I love, how you talk about the audience and their comments and all that sort of stuff. How do you continue as you grow to stay connected to? Are you able to read all those comments?
No.
So much.
I'd spend so much time in therapy if I read all those comments.
So how does that work? Like, how do you kind of sift through everything? Is that something you need to do, or is there another platform that you use?
No, I have some friends like Jake Roper. I don't know if you know Jake. Yeah, Vsauce3 is a fantastic YouTuber. He's also a fantastic human being. He doesn't look at his comments ever. Like, to him, it's like fire. Like, don't look into the fire. Don't touch the fire. Pretend the fire doesn't exist. Ignore the fire. And I'm a little bit more open about it. Like, I love perusing the comments, and I try to respond and look at it, but it is a black hole. Like, there's no bottom. You just keep going, and whether or not you're actually making a difference or making any impact whatsoever is highly arguable. So, usually my rule is after I post, I'll go back an hour later and try to interact as much as I can. But I think that Twitter is a much, much, much better platform for conversations like that. It's just unfortunate that, in the States anyways, Twitter is not a super popular platform for the YouTube audience. Twitter's a much more mature platform. It's where adults go to argue about politics, which is unfortunate. I mean, that's great, yes. But I wish it were more like an exciting place to interact with an audience.
Well, I think Twitter's still alive because of politics.
Absolutely, I would not disagree with that. I would not disagree with that. But I think
don't quote me on that.
Twitter is an example of like a really good way to interact with strangers, of the one-to-many conversation. And I wish the YouTube comments, what's their excuse? It's been like, what, 11 years?
Yeah.
They can't figure out the comments? Come on, YouTube. Figure it out.
Well, maybe this new community tab, which they just launched, I don't know, have you tested that out, Casey?
No, I haven't tested it out. Learn something new.
Just cut that part out, please.
No, I think it's interesting. And I do think what they're trying to address with that is exactly what I'm describing. It's just a more effective way of communicating and having a dialogue with your audience.
Super. I want to talk a little bit about the word viral, because it's used like so loosely nowadays. There's a lot of brands that walk up to you and they're like, "We're going to pay you to create a viral video," and you're just like, "I'm not sure if I can do that," but is that even possible? I mean, I know some of your videos have gone viral, the Halloween stuff.
I think viral is difficult to define. Viral is difficult to understand. Viral is almost impossible to predict. But to me, what viral means is that it goes well beyond your audience because it's being shared outside of your audience. I think viral is a combination of things. I think it's about the zeitgeist. It's about the broad appeal of a video, certainly the subject matter, timeliness, all of those things. But I think chasing that is really, really uninteresting. I always think that, it's better to have 10 people see your work and have it really affect them than have 1,000 people see your work and go, meh. So to chase the latter, I think is to discount the integrity of your work altogether.
When we talk about content creation, and specifically talking about partners and brands, a lot of people want to kind of follow the Red Bull route, to become these major content creators. And yet other brands are still looking at collaborating with content creators. How do you see, do you see like a better direction for brands, or how is that?
Well, I think it's tough, because I think that we as the audience have a really easy time developing a relationship with an individual. I subscribe to KSI, I was on stage, I subscribe to KSI, I like him as a person, and I have a relationship with him. So how am I supposed to have a relationship with a brand? How am I supposed to have a relationship with Pepsi? It's not a person, it's an aluminum can filled up with carbonated, caffeinated sugar water. I don't have a relationship with that. And I think because of that, we're super skeptical of it. Whether it's a car company or a cell phone company or anything else, like, how am I supposed to have a relationship with this? I think Apple is unique in that capacity because Apple's done an unbelievable job of spending 15 years humanizing their brand. And I think that, my work with Samsung is never about the device, ever. I don't even have the device in any of the work that I do with Samsung. It's always about a much, much bigger idea. So you can have a relationship with an idea. You can't have a relationship with a device. So I think for brands to turn to individuals is a very natural progression. They can't develop a relationship like that, so why not work with an individual who represents a lot of the same values and build a relationship that way? That said, it's completely uncharted territory. It's all new. And I think at the end of the day, it means just incredible opportunities for everybody in this room that has a camera in their hand to turn something that is a passion into something that can be a career. Because these companies need you, and they need your ability to communicate with an audience in order for them to be relevant. And that, to me, is a very, very exciting opportunity.
I want to quickly also touch on Beam, and what is the update on Beam today? That story, the evolution of what it was and what it moved to, the relationship with CNN. That's a great story. Was it always meant to be that way, or did that kind of just
No,
happen?
I mean, I think it is a great story. I mean, Beam right now, we haven't figured it out. This year is really tough, but, we started as a technology company. We built a couple of apps, one main app, social video sharing app. It didn't work, but there's a lot of value in the company. So CNN Turner bought the company, which is very exciting. Along with that acquisition came so much opportunity, and we spent the last year trying to figure out how to take advantage of that opportunity, and we haven't succeeded yet. Like, Beam is still a hot mess, and we don't know what we're doing. But I will say that we spent a year trying to figure out what to do, and I think we've got a good grip on it, and our plan for 2018 is to act on that understanding. But the hope, the idea, and who knows if we'll succeed, is to take this understanding of how you communicate with an audience, which is something I've learned via YouTube, and we've all learned via social media, and try to apply that to some version of journalism. I don't think we're going to be the hard-hitting journalist that is the New York Times or the Washington Post or that kind of thing, but people want to be informed, and I think our skepticism of the press is only growing. I don't know who to trust. Half the stuff I read, I have no idea what to believe. Like, our president is saying everything's fake, which is pretty confusing. It's hard to find a footing. So what we're trying to do at Beam, and we have not succeeded yet, but what we're trying to do is like that same thing. Like, if you can trust individuals, then maybe you can trust what they're saying. So let's make a whole network that's about individuals that are sharing information in a way that maybe you can develop a relationship with. And that's our plan for 2018. And CNN's been crazy supportive. They've been hands-off and given us everything we've needed. We just haven't been able to turn that into success yet. And I'm very realistic about that. But I really think 2018 is going to be the year that we find our footing and are able to leverage that into something meaningful.
Awesome. I mean, I keep track of it as well, so I see you guys kind of keeping the audience involved in the same way that you just did right now.
There's a funny story. So we have a talk show on Beam that's hosted by this guy named Lou, who I love. And the reason why he hosts that talk show is because I was trying to host it and I couldn't do it, and I knew that I was terrible. And I literally like flipped out and threw my cell phone, and as I was like storming out of the room, they were all sitting there like, "What do we do now?" And I was like, "I don't know, have Lou host it. He's the writer." And he was like, "Okay, boss." And then went and sat down, and he was like, "Okay." And I was like, "This guy's amazing!" So we just like made him the host of the show, and he's really good. And I trust him, and I want to be friends with him. And I mean, who knows? But like,
he's got that look, yeah.
He's got the, he's like, there's no way you can dislike this guy. He's the most likable person. So to me, like, that's a little bit of like, okay, if we can capture that ethos, that whatever that is, and build something around that, that's the idea for this company. It's just easy in concept, very hard to do in execution.
It's very good. I mean, if you guys watch it, I was having to look at it, and it's very natural, it's very organic, it feels very fresh. It's very similar to what Casey does on his vlogs, but it's got that news kind of element to it. I like that.
We try. I don't like to oversell it because we haven't found it yet. And once we do find it, believe me, like
I saw this interview you did with Lewis Howes, and you say hunger is a powerful motivation for you, certainly in your situation when you were growing up and everything like that. It's almost irrelevant here in this region. What do we do? Where do we dig? Where do we get motivation for content creators here?
I don't know. I don't know about motivation for content creators, but I know about just ambition in general. And I remember when I moved to New York City, I was 19 years old, 20 years old, I had nothing. I was like a dirt poor kid with no education. And I met all these rich kids, and I idolized them. I was like, God, they have trust funds, they have money, they have all these resources, all of these worries that I have that I don't get to sleep over, so I don't know how I'm going to eat tomorrow. They don't have, and I was so jealous of these people. And many of them I then watched grow up, and we grew up together, and I watched them grow up and to really struggle to find a purpose in life, because they didn't have to. They didn't need to find a purpose. They didn't need to go out there and fight to find a job. They didn't need to go out there and just like take no prisoners and work through the night because their survival was on the line. They could always be like, I'm just going to go to bed. I've got a trust fund that'll be there in the morning. And as I found success, that jealousy or envy that I once had for them is now turned into pity. I feel bad for them. And I thank God I wasn't born rich. I'm very happy that I had to struggle so much early in my career because that's my source of motivation. I know what happens if I stop or go easy, and it sucks. It's terrible. I never want to go back there, so I'll always be fighting. So in the absence of that, I don't know. I don't know. That's all I've ever known. That's it. One of my favorite people in media is a journalist named Anderson Cooper. He's on CNN. You guys know him? Yeah. He's like the most handsome man alive. He is fantastic, and he works like, you know, I've interacted with him a little because of CNN. He works around the clock, and he is just like, he's a fighter. He's gotten to where he's always fought, going to war zones, telling the stories nobody else tells, and he comes from one of the richest families in the United States of America. He is royalty in the States, meaning that he never had to do any of that, and he would have still had a very cushy, very comfortable life. So I say that because that is something I can't empathize with, but when I look, I do see people who are able to find their passion and their motivation behind that, despite the fact that they don't have to. They do it because they want to. So I don't mean to sound discouraging when I say, you know, I only know my way. I think there are myriad ways for this to manifest, but I think that a life without motivation, a life without a passion, can be a very unfulfilling one.
And I want to end with one last question because I think our time is our time up? Getting close? Yeah. So you know, obviously when I told people, they're on the suddenly us Arabs are like on time. Come on. You know, a lot of people messaged me over the last few days when I announced that, you know, I'm gonna be fortunate enough to be, you know, speaking with Casey. A lot of people messaged me and said, please tell him we love him, and please, you know, send our regards. And I don't have a huge audience. It literally was like, I'd say in the hundreds, and 50% of my audience is Arab. So I just want to focus on that. 50% are international, but that just shows that you've resonated with the youth over here, and I say that because it's difficult. You know, we live in a region where historically all of our role models have been the royal family, right? Like we look up to the royal family. They've done great things. They really, like when you look at everything that people know around the world, it's because of them. They're very down to earth. And I speak about the UAE mainly. I don't want to talk about the rest of the region, but you've hit a note with people over here. And today, I can tell you, there's nobody here that's doing anything on YouTube that hasn't taken at least one little bit from Casey Neistat. You know, there's certainly something that they've taken from you. And it's very important with the current sentiment around the world that we continue to build YouTubers who empathize with you, who really understand you, who like what you do, and can continue to do good like you do, Casey. Your content is very important. You know, so you've got their ears. It's very important. We don't need tens or hundreds of content creators in the Arab world. We need millions because we need to really show that we are all more alike than we are different. What can you tell these people? What encouragement can you give them to continue to grow?
Well, I mean, I think that I don't know how to say this in a way that's entirely apolitical, but I think that the United States is such a siloed place, and there's, you know, more people in the States have never left the country than people that have left the country. And because of that, there's a real lack of understanding. There's a lack of understanding culturally, societally, certainly geopolitically, from an ideological perspective, from a religious perspective. And I think with a lack of understanding comes fear. If you don't understand your neighbor, you're terrified of your neighbor. And this is why, when I preface this whole talk by being pissed off about YouTube Rewind, is because YouTube Rewind, or YouTube as a whole, is a way to fix that. It doesn't matter if you've never had the opportunity to fly to the Middle East and meet a group of people like yourselves. You can see on YouTube that we're all alike, and we all have the same struggles in life, and we all have the same desires and ambitions in life, and we're all kind of the same. We're all the same. We're all the same. And I see YouTube as this gigantic unifying power that can show us that, like, through all that divisiveness, through all that political and all those other versions of divisiveness that exist all over the world, that communication can fix all of that. If we know that, like, we're all just the same kind of people struggling with the same kind of things, and animosity comes from a lack of understanding, and YouTube can be that bridge to fix that understanding. So my advice is not to overthink that, but to, again, I go back to sort of sharing your own story. Because to share your own story is to tell people who you are, and to learn who you are is to realize that we're all alike. And certainly that's what I try to do on the platform. I'm a 36-year-old father of 2 who lives in New York City, and for some reason I'm able to relate and connect with people all over the world, and I think that's because, despite the fact that I'm a 36-year-old father of 2 who lives in New York City, I'm just kind of like everybody else. So that's what I encourage others to do, is focus on telling your story as authentically and as truthfully as you possibly can.
Fantastic. Casey Neistat, thank you so much.
Thank you.